Hello again, here we are. Just wanted to come back. We're still working on our homework for the week, and we are working with the distributive property. The distributive property, the way that works is that you combine numbers before you add or multiply them. So you typically are using multiplication with parentheses, and you are distributing the number or variable before you get to the parentheses, and you're distributing that number or variable among the numbers and variables in the problem. So for instance, here we're looking at number 1, and it says 5 times 5 plus 5 times c. So the way that equates out is 5 times 5 is 25, and then you just add in your operation signs, which is addition, and then you have 5 times c, which is c. So your answer is 25 plus 5c. Now here is another one we can try. It's negative 3 times 2a, which gives us negative 6a, and then we have negative 3 plus 5. So that would be negative 3 times 5, which will give you negative 15. And that's essentially how you do the distributive property. It's just essentially what it says. It's distributed among the numbers or variables that are in the parentheses. So next we're looking at combined terms. So combined terms are those terms that look alike. So in number 7, it kept it very simple for us. So you have 17c plus 6c. So your c is your term that's alike, and then you add 17 plus 6, which gives you 23. So your answer is 23c. Next, we are looking at number 10. Number 10, you have 2 different variables that we're dealing with. And sometimes what I do to make sure that I capture all my like terms, I go through and I label them. So for instance, we have 3a. So I'm going to put a circle around my a's. And then we have just the variable. So I'll put a square around that. So I have 3a plus 9a, which gives me 12a, and 12a plus 2a gives me 14a. So I've combined all 3 of those terms into one, and then which leaves me with just a 16. So I just bring that over. So that's essentially how you do combined terms. You categorize them, and then you add or subtract them depending on what the integers are preceding it. So next we have our standard notation. So it says write using standard notation, and you are going in between scientific notation and standard notation. So the way that works is you start off with your number. The first number has to be between 1 and 10, and then you use the exponent to know how many numbers are supposed to go beyond that decimal point. So you have 6 and 781 thousandths times 10 to the 5th power. So our number is between 1 and 10 is 6. And then we have these numbers here that are preceding the decimal. I'm sorry, after this decimal. So that number would turn to 7, 8, 1, and then it has a 5 there, so we need 2 other additional digits. So which changes the number, and it's in a longer form. So that's essentially how you do that. Next we have 7 and 61 hundredths times 10 to the negative 5th power. So again, we start, our first number is between 1 and 10. Then the numbers that are after the decimal, you need to have, since there's a negative sign, it goes before. So you have 7, 6, 1. This is your number that's giving you between 1 and 10. And then you want to make sure that you have 5 spaces until your decimal. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then your decimal point. And in these spaces, you place the 0. So now they're asking us to write using scientific notation. So remember, we said the rule was that you had to have your first number had to be between 1 and 10. So we're going to start out with 6. And then we add our decimal, 8 to 1. We have our multiplication sign with a 10. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 6 numbers afterwards. So you would just add that 6 there. And that's it. Very simple. So on this number 19, it starts off with 6, 7, 1. So your first number is again in between 1 and 10. The numbers after that are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that would be times 6 and negative 6. All right. So again, with their scientific notation, again, we're going to always make sure that our numbers, the first number is between 1 and 10, and then we're going to count the spaces after it. And the reason that we use scientific notation is to make our numbers shorter. So if you see here in the examples before, the standard form is written out a lot longer. And so we change it to scientific notation so that it'll be a shorter version of the number. Now, again, just to kind of review what we've went over so far, we've been over combined terms, we talked about the distributive property, and we talked about scientific notation in the forms of writing, going from scientific notation to standard form and from standard form to scientific notations. So if you could go ahead and finish the remaining problems and I can answer any questions that you may have. So you're going to use your combining like terms. And you are going to always combine the like terms prior to adding or multiplying. And we show those steps there. And then before that, we talked about the distributive property. We are distributing the number outside of the parentheses throughout the numbers that are inside of the parentheses, and it's typically in multiplication and addition. So if we look at number 2, we have negative 8 times y, and then we have negative 8 times 2, so which gives you 8y plus negative 16. Okay, so that concludes our lesson for 5, which is also during that first week. So if you have any additional questions, again, please reach out to me. My contact information is on the Southwest Leadership Academy website, as well as on the Remind app. Please feel free to reach out.